Hey everyone, before we dive in, I need you to pause for a moment and really hear this. What I'm about to share isn't just another self-help video. This is about transforming the way you respond when someone ignores you. And trust me, the wisdom I'm about to share has been tested not just over years or decades, but over millennia. You see, that gut-wrenching feeling when someone leaves you on read, when a friend suddenly goes cold, or when a colleague acts like you're invisible, it's not just a modern problem. The ancient Stoic philosophers grappled with these same emotional challenges, and they developed profound insights that are more relevant today than ever. Now, you might be thinking, I've heard all this before, just ignore them back, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. And that's exactly why you need to watch this entire video. Because the 3 mistakes I'm going to reveal are probably not what you expect. And the solutions might challenge everything you think you know about handling rejection. Let me share something personal. Last year, I experienced a situation that made me question everything I thought I knew about human relationships. A close friend, someone I'd known for over a decade, suddenly started ignoring my messages. No explanation, no apparent reason. And I'll be honest, I made all 3 mistakes I'm about to share with you. The pain and confusion I felt led me down a rabbit hole of studying Stoic philosophy, and what I discovered completely changed my perspective. As the great Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This quote became my North Star during that difficult time, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to embody this wisdom when someone ignores you. But before we get into the 3 critical mistakes, we need to understand something fundamental about human nature and our reactions to being ignored. The ancient Stoics understood something that modern psychology has only recently proven through research. Our emotional reactions to being ignored are deeply rooted in our survival instincts. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote in his Meditations, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." This isn't about denial. It's about understanding the true nature of our pain when someone ignores us. And this understanding is crucial before we can address the 3 mistakes that make the situation infinitely worse. You see, when someone ignores us, our brains actually register it as physical pain. This isn't metaphorical. Neuroscientific studies have shown that the same areas of our brain that process physical pain light up when we experience social rejection. The Stoics somehow knew this intuitively, which is why they developed specific mental practices to handle such situations. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and why you absolutely need to stay with me through this entire video. The 3 mistakes I'm about to share aren't just behavioral errors. They're fundamental misunderstandings about the nature of human relationships and our own peace of mind. Each mistake comes with a specific Stoic principle that, when applied correctly, doesn't just help you handle being ignored. It transforms your entire approach to relationships. The first mistake, which we're about to dive into, is so common that nearly everyone I've ever talked to about this topic has made it. In fact, I bet that 90% of the people watching this video have made this mistake in the last month alone. And the worst part, most people think this reaction is actually helpful. The first mistake is what I call emotional time traveling. This happens when we let being ignored send us into a spiral of reliving past rejections or imagining future abandonment. You know what I mean? That moment when someone doesn't respond, and suddenly you're replaying every awkward interaction you've ever had, or catastrophizing about how this means you'll always be alone. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, addressed this exact tendency when he wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He understood that our minds can be our greatest tormentors, especially when we let them run wild with past regrets or future fears. Think about it. When someone ignores you, what's actually happening in the present moment? They're simply not engaging. That's it. Everything else, the story about what it means about you, about them, about your future, that's all happening in your mind. The Stoics taught us to stay grounded in the present moment, to deal with what's actually happening rather than what we fear might happen. Let me give you a practical example. When my friend started ignoring me, I caught myself spending hours analyzing our last conversation, wondering if I'd said something wrong, and imagining scenarios where our friendship was permanently damaged. But then I remembered another powerful teaching from Marcus Aurelius. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. The antidote to this first mistake is what I call present moment anchoring. When you notice someone is ignoring you, consciously bring your attention back to the present moment. Ask yourself, right now, in this moment, what's actually happening? What do I know for sure? This simple practice can prevent hours of unnecessary suffering. The second critical mistake is one that's become even more common in our age of social media: attempting to control the uncontrollable. When someone ignores us, we often fall into the trap of trying to manage their behavior through various manipulative tactics: double texting, creating elaborate plans to make them jealous, or orchestrating situations to force a response. Epictetus had something profound to say about this. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters, so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. This is where things get really interesting, and why understanding the second mistake is crucial. When we try to control someone else's response to us, we're not just wasting our energy, we're actually giving away our power. The Stoics understood that true power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering our own responses. Here's what's fascinating. Research has shown that when we try to force someone to stop ignoring us, we often create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Our desperate attempts to regain control actually push people further away. I learned this the hard way when I tried every trick in the book to get my friend to respond, only to realize I was making things worse. The third mistake is perhaps the most subtle but also the most damaging: letting someone else's behavior define your self-worth. This is where the Stoic philosophy becomes absolutely transformative. You see, when someone ignores us, we often internalize it as a reflection of our value as a person. We think, if I were more interesting/attractive/successful, they wouldn't ignore me. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught that our true worth comes from our character and actions, not from others' opinions or behaviors. This isn't just ancient wisdom. Modern psychology confirms that tying our self-worth to others' responses creates a foundation for emotional instability. Let me share something powerful that happened during my own experience. When I finally stopped letting my friend's silence define my worth, something unexpected occurred. I found a kind of peace I'd never known before. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Now, here's where everything we've discussed comes together in a practical way. The Stoics didn't just give us philosophy, they gave us actionable wisdom. When someone ignores you, instead of making these three mistakes, here's what you do instead. Let me share with you the practical framework that emerges from Stoic wisdom. Instead of making those three destructive mistakes, here's your new approach, what I call the Stoic response protocol. First, when you notice someone is ignoring you, practice what Epictetus called the discipline of perception. Take a moment to observe your immediate emotional response without judgment. Are you feeling anxious, angry, hurt? Simply naming these emotions creates a small but crucial gap between the trigger and your response. As Epictetus said, it's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things. During my own experience, I developed a simple 2-minute practice. Whenever I felt the sting of being ignored, I would set a timer for 2 minutes and write down exactly what was happening in the present moment. Just the facts, no interpretation. This simple act helped me separate what was actually happening from the story my mind was creating about it. The second part of the protocol addresses our need for control. Instead of trying to manipulate the situation, redirect that energy into what the Stoics called appropriate actions. These are actions that align with your values and character, regardless of the outcome. As Marcus Aurelius advised, just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. Here's what this looks like in practice. Instead of obsessing over why someone is ignoring you, ask yourself, what would a person of strong character do in this situation? Maybe it's focusing on other meaningful relationships, pursuing personal goals, or simply maintaining your dignity by not engaging in desperate attempts to get attention. This brings us to the most powerful part of the Stoic approach, what I call value-centered detachment. The Stoics taught that true freedom comes from understanding what's within our control and what isn't. As Epictetus famously said, some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and in one word, whatever are not our own actions. When someone ignores you, here's what's in your control: your interpretation of the situation, your response, your actions, your focus, your values. What's not in your control: their behavior, their thoughts, their responses, their reasons, their timeline. Understanding this distinction isn't just philosophical, it's practically liberating. When I finally grasped this during my own experience, it completely transformed how I handled being ignored. Instead of wasting energy trying to change what I couldn't control, I focused entirely on what I could. Let me share something remarkable that happened when I applied this approach. Not only did my anxiety about being ignored diminish, but my relationships in general became stronger. Why? Because when you stop making these 3 mistakes, you naturally become more grounded, more authentic, and more attractive to others. The Stoic philosopher Musonius Rufus taught that difficulties are opportunities for virtue. Being ignored, as painful as it can be, is an opportunity to practice emotional resilience, self-respect, and wisdom. Every time someone ignores you, you have a choice. You can fall into the trap of these 3 mistakes, or you can use the situation as a chance to grow stronger. Remember what Seneca said: no person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have, and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have. When someone ignores you, you still have everything you need to maintain your peace of mind and self-respect. As we wrap up this video, I want to leave you with a powerful visualization that combines modern psychology with Stoic wisdom. Imagine your self-worth as a mighty oak tree. The oak doesn't depend on any single person's attention or validation to grow strong. It draws nourishment from deep roots: your values, your character, your actions. When someone ignores you, they're like a passing cloud. They might temporarily block some sunlight, but they can't stop the tree from growing. If you've made these mistakes in the past, don't be hard on yourself. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. When someone ignores you, respond with dignity, grace, and wisdom. Let their behavior be about them, while your response reflects the best of who you are. Thank you for staying with me through this entire video. If you found value in these insights, please share this video with someone who might need it. Remember, the next time someone ignores you, you have a choice. You can fall into these 3 mistakes, or you can rise above them with Stoic wisdom. The power is, and always has been, in your hands. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Stay strong, stay wise, and most importantly, stay true to yourself.